If you're a writer and entrepreneur and you're looking for a way to streamline your business, maybe you're spread too thin, your calendar is chaotic and you're realizing you have a million things to do and you're doing it all quite poorly, and you want a way to systemize your business so that it runs without you or as much as possible so you can focus on more freedom or making more of an impact, then over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you how I have completely systemized my writing business so that I can make $500K a year with just one VA, mostly spending my time writing. Now, you don't need experiences with systems building because the approach I'm going to show you is dead simple, and you don't need a big team either. The key is systems. The systems keep you consistent, they make it easy for you to do the hard thing, and they let you focus on your highest leverage activities. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's dive in. Step number one is to design your day. So a quick story for you. When I quit dentistry, as a dentist, my calendar was mad. I had 20 to 30 patients a day, 6 days a week, sometimes for 12 hours. And I thought when I quit, the freedom is going to be so beautiful. And I sat down the next day and it was horrible because suddenly there was no person telling me what to do, okay? And I just ended up screwing around, procrastinating, sitting around on social media. And after a couple of weeks, I was like, wow, I am getting nothing done. This seems really paradoxical, but the first thing you have to do when you are the boss is treat yourself like an employee. You want to set aside time to do the work that you need to do so that you can actually just fall into your routine and be like, oh, okay, this is my afternoon. This is when I do this. Now, the best way to split apart your calendar, if we're writers, you have 4 things to focus on, 4 slots. Number 1 is creativity. Number 2 is commerce. Number 3 is community. And number 4 is clarity. So let me just run you through them. The first block is the creativity block, and this is the most important part for your business. It's the sacred window where you're writing, all right, or creating things, building your products, whatever you're doing that's deep creative work. I always hear this mistake from like when I was listening to big brand writers, they always go, I started because I loved writing, but now I don't really have time for that. Like I spend most of my time on the business. This is a mistake because it's the creative work that drives your business forward and that turns stuff from linear to exponential. And so we set aside a window of time and say, this is untouchable. For me, that's the first 4 to 6 hours of the day. Usually I start writing at about 6 in the morning, and that means by 10, I have done, if I wanted to stop my day there, at least I know I have done the needle moving stuff. The second slot is commerce. So this is when you are delivering your work in your business. So it could be the done for you work you do, or the calls you have with clients, or the critiques, or even just replying to messages. It's super important that you set boundaries here. So I messaged all my clients and I was like, look, when we're working together, you will not hear from me until around 2 p.m. Right? But that just means I'm doing all my work so I can give you my full focus. Similarly, I only take calls on certain days. So I have 1 client call per month for every high ticket client. They can only book in on a Monday afternoon, the first Monday of the month. And everyone is happy with these boundaries because it shows that you A, respect yourself, and B, that when you give them your attention, you're giving them your full attention. The third slot is community. And community, they say your network is your net worth. I actually think most people waste too much time on networking and they should just go build something and that'll do the networking for them. But you do need to set aside time for engaging on social media, talking to people in the DM, sending conversations that attract clients. I like to do this stuff at the end of my working day because what I have found is that if I go on social media, even for 10 minutes, let's say I'm a little bit tired, I go on at 10 in the morning, what happens after that is my focus is completely shot. And the fourth slot, the clarity side, is often overlooked, right? You're in the business of ideas. And if you're so busy during your day that you don't have time to go for a half an hour walk or 10 minutes of meditation or to read a book, what you're going to find is your ideas dry up, right? Like your content's falling flat. You feel like crap, and if you feel like crap, you're never going to operate at your best. And so for me, I always finish my day with a 90-minute walk. Usually that means no podcast, or I'll listen to a podcast halfway and then I'll walk back in silence on the other. And honestly, that is where all of the good ideas come from. So we can actually look at our day and say, okay, this is this block, this is this block, and I'll show you my calendar in a moment so you can see how that works. That's on the basis that, by the way, you are working your own job, you got your own business. If you're in a 9 to 5, that just means you need to be even more controlling of your time. So for example, when I was a dentist, I first thought I would write in the evenings, okay, but it only took 1 bad patient for me to be like, I can't really be arsed, let's just go home and watch some Love Island or some shit. I was a different man back then. And so I never actually got the work done. And so my rule was I'm always going to start my day building my dream, not my boss's. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and I'd do 2 hours of writing, and then I would do my community stuff in my lunch break in between patients. The commerce stuff we do in the evenings and weekends, and I would learn during the weekends too. It's hard work, but that's the point, right? And then when you get that freedom, you can start to play around a bit. Now, when we have the ideal day designed, we can then expand that into looking at your full week and begin to allocate slots, because the truth about business is 90% of your work is repetition. Like if you've ever sat down and thought, what am I doing today? You have failed, right? You're wasting creative energy on non-creative stuff. And so I have everything mapped out, and all I have to do every morning is when I wake up, I see what's on my to-do list, I see what's on for the day, and I just follow every single step. So let me show you how this looks for me. So this is my calendar, very, very basic one. On a Monday, we kind of theming these days, right? And so on a Monday, it's my first draft days. I'll write my book. Book goes every single time, and there's usually between 90 minutes to 3 hours. Then I'll do all my emails. Then I'll do my paid newsletter, which I've just been, so I won't need to do that anymore because it was getting a bit intense. And then I do all my social media content. In the afternoons, I do my client stuff, and then Monday admin, and I'll show you what these links are. On a Tuesday, it's draft 2 day. And on a Wednesday, it's draft 3 day. And then, stuff like recording this YouTube content, although today's Saturday because I was running a little bit behind. Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays is where I really focus on the business stuff. But I will also, for example, if I am, when I say I'm running a launch and there's a bit of a deadline coming, I might shorten my book writing sessions. But the key here for me, book is top priority. You have to ask what you're optimizing for. It's like, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. This is how you make sure you're doing the work that you want to do. So the best way to do this is to write out every single thing that you do in your business. You want to batch it together. The reason why batching is important is because when you're swapping between tasks, your brain is still operating on this other mode. So for example, with writing a first draft is dramatically different from writing a second draft. And so if we could just split those into the days, it's very easy to pop that hat on and just do the work that you need to do. Take all the tasks, make sure that they're all allocated during the week. And then we're going to start putting in the reps to see if our system is working and where we need to improve it. Now, before I go on to say how we can do this, you can get like a template of this calendar along with SOPs, which I'll show you in a moment. So like a template for your SOPs. We've got a document down below, really easy to download so you can plan this stuff out. And this leads me to the point about SOPs. So what is an SOP? It stands for Standard Operating Procedure. It's a fancy way for saying it's a bloody checklist. You are not above checklists. People think that they are, but if a pilot is using a checklist every single time they fly, you can do it for your business too. And the reason that we do this is because it reduces error rates. Every time that you screw up is an opportunity to improve the way that you're operating. But if you're so busy and you don't really have it written down, you're like, I'll remember that for next time. You're going to keep repeating the same mistakes. And then you're going to wonder like, how is this person so good at what he does while I'm sucking? It's because a person that is just repeating the same thing is kind of like this. But a person who is iterating, which is a repetition with improvement, starts going like this. And so what we do is let's say we've got the email draft 1 here. You're going to write down everything that happens for writing an email. So the planning phase is on a Friday actually, but the first draft, I go into my literally everything here. So here's the link that I need. Write the first draft as fast as I can. I might do a voice note. I'm not allowed to edit. If I get stuck, I put placeholders. When I finish, I stop. I open up the next document. And then I have to make sure that we're appealing to self-interest. There's like a little note for me. And what that happens there is that when you notice that you're screwing something up, which is going to be different per person, you can leave a little note for yourself there. So let's say, for example, on a client call, you always forget at the end to ask, how was this call for you? Which is super important for feedback. You just put that into your SOP. You never forget it again. It becomes automated in your brain. Then you can delete it later if you want to. This might sound quite particular and quite controlling, but the way I like to think of it is that you want to build your business so that you can train someone else to do it, even if it's the stuff that only you can do. Because if you have that approach for everything, you're going to have super high standards, which means you're not wasting so much energy screwing up all the time. So we have all of our SOPs here. Another example, here's my YouTube one at the moment. I've just started YouTube, right? But I've written out, so I need to do my big idea, pick a problem, solution, come up with 3 titles, a thumbnail description, my hooks, all of this stuff. And then I start adding prompts for me to write it better. Then when it's recorded, which, you know, takes me a little while, or when I record, I follow this thing. Do a quick dummy run and listen. Is the mic working? All of these things, because I recorded a video and then my head was like 10 times lower than it should have been. SOP, every time I load it up now, I just have to follow. It makes it super, super easy. You should have every single part of what you're doing repeatedly SOP'd. The best way to do that for the SOPs, by the way, the first time I did this stuff, I was like, cool, I'm going to spend 2 weeks and write everything out. It's a lot harder. The best thing to do is actually just slow down. And when you go through your week, when you're executing your new 4C calendar, just write out what you're doing over and over. Or you can actually record it on Loom and just talk through what you're doing and then put it into ChatGPT and just say, hey, lay this out in a series of action steps of what I've just described, leaving all of the details in, and it will write out your SOPs for you. And then the next week, you come in and you go, okay, cool. This is the first time that I've read my, let's say, my paid newsletter SOP. I'm going to follow the steps on there. So this was just find posts. I'm going to follow day 2. And you're like, I don't actually agree with that point. That's a little bit confusing. And you're editing it as you go. So you're kind of refining it in real time. That's the best way to do it. And when I'm training my VA, we do the same. So let's say I run a launch. The first time she helped me with a launch and I've got a clue what she's doing. We've now done like 30, 40 launches. And all I have to do is literally go onto my writing dashboard. Let's say we've got a launch running at the moment. I just put these emails in here. Okay, and she does everything else. And she's just got SOPs for that. She's uploading the content, she's talking to customers, she's doing everything that's non-writing related. We'll talk about a VA in a moment. I just want to make one more important point. You are going to get so many tasks as an entrepreneur. Like there's this illusion that like eventually you'll be done. The to-do list is never ending. And I mean, most of my business is just ran on a bit of paper that sits in front of me, but you want a place to record all these things to do so you don't get overwhelmed and so you can easily prioritize. So what I have at the bottom of my calendar is my to-do list, okay? And the stuff that I haven't started, like an idea pops in, you know, for example, I saw the pop-up on my website, it sucks, I need to rewrite it, and I'm like, cool, put it in there so I don't start doing it immediately and then lose sight of my priorities. Then all I have to do is set the dates of the stuff that I'm doing, and in my business slots, which are in the afternoons, I can go, okay, so like tomorrow, for example, I'm going to write a sales page for my one-on-one calls. It needs to be updated. Then I can just tick these off. We can assign priorities, and you can train your assistant too so that she knows what she's doing. So for example, if I've got a launch running, I need email sequences, I need to promote it, I need to decide how I'm monetizing it, I need to write a landing page, and it's all just in here, super, super simple. So you want a basic to-do list, a basic calendar, basic SOPs. That's it from that side, okay? You don't need a super complicated system. You just need your shit written down somewhere so you can follow it. Now you might be wondering from there, like, do I need a VA? And when should I get a VA? Well, let me just tell you from personal experience, yes, you do need a VA, and you need it earlier than you think. My mistake, I waited until I made my first 6 figures as a writer to hire a VA because I'm from Yorkshire. If you're not from England, we're all tight asses up there, and I'm just like clamoring onto my money. Time is more important than money. Okay, and you cannot afford to be bogged down in non-creative tasks. And so the first thing you want to do, right, once you're covering your costs of living, don't go splashing out on restaurants. Go splash out on a very good virtual assistant. Mine is in the Philippines, okay? She works for me for about 40, 50 hours a week, and without her, I would be completely screwed. Now, how do you hire a VA? You can go onto Fiverr, you can go onto all these places. I personally use a recruitment agency, again, because you want to just use money to make stuff happen better. They go find super high quality people. You can interview them. The key with a VA is just to start small. Remember, you've already documented all of your processes. So let's say, for example, the way that I started with my VA, I want you to upload my social media content and my emails. And here's how I've been doing it. All right, and I want you to go and do it, and then we'll do it live together. So you have loads of live calls at the start, you watch them do it, then you get them to write their own SOP of that thing, and then every time they do something and it goes really well, great, congratulate them. When there's stuff that could be better, then you say, okay, let's update the SOP and let's do that next time. So for example, quite often inside our emails, she would forget to put a link in. You know, I mentioned one of my products, there's no link to the product. And I'm like, great. Well, from now on, when you're uploading an email, if you just Control F, XF, right? That means that there's something for you to insert. When I write my emails, if I say like I wanted to go find a price of something, I'll just put XF, and she has to clear all of those XFs before she uploads the email. Now it's on me to make sure that I'm prompting her. She never misses a thing. right? And so that's how you're going to train the V up over time. But you start small and you just start adding more and more. So for example, my VA now she uploads all my content, she replies to most of my emails, she handles all customer stuff, she builds my courses for me, she even books my flights, my hotels, based on a checklist of things that I need when I'm traveling. I can't tell you how important that is for getting your time back. Okay, the reason that I am able to write 3 to 4 emails a week, I'm writing a book, building products, got coaching and consulting, is because everything that is non-creative is being done by someone else, and you only really need one person plus AI for that. And that's going to lead me to just one final point. When you are building the system, once you have stuff SOP'd, the really powerful part is relentless iteration. So what do I mean by that? There's a good story about the British cycling team. We used to absolutely suck. They hired a coach, and the coach just looked at every single thing they do and made it 1% better. That's how something goes from linear to exponential, okay? Because it just starts spinning faster and faster. And that's what you can do with your SOPs. For example, if we look at, let's say, email draft 1, I need to plan my ideas, right? Which means we need to think of ideas. If I ask myself, how can I make this easier and faster? Well, for one, and again, I haven't been doing this so much for this at the moment, I could say, okay, well, I need to know where my ideas are. So I could put the link in to my idea area. I could put a link into the questionnaires that we have for with the transcripts that you have for every client call. And so if all those links are there, now all I have to do is open those up, and there are the ideas for me. We can also then start thinking, okay, easier and faster. How can we get AI to do this? So one example, when I run a launch, we have the email itself. And then beforehand, what I used to do was I would then go in and I would edit this content. It would fit for social media instead. And I was like, well, why am I doing this? Okay, it's taking too long. So we use AI. All right, I don't write with AI, but I get it to do everything else with my VA. For example, what happens here now, I'm going to copy paste an email in. You're going to reduce the word count, remove first name, delete my name, delete the PS, get rid of all the headers, delete all the ad stuff, remove captions, and remove all of the pictures inside the email and turn it into a social media pitch maintaining my voice. What that means now is that every single email I write, and I update my VA's SOP, when she uploads the email, will then run it through Claude and then turn that into a social media post, and then she just sends it to me to say, does that look okay? I've just saved myself, I don't know, 15 to 20 minutes, serious mental horsepower. And we have this, by the way, for everything that we are doing. So I have a resource called the AI Vault, where there's like 50 different prompts. And all I have done is gone through every step of my business and constantly thought, can I build a prompt to do this? Can I train my VA to implement this prompt? And then can we get that to fit into our system in an SOP so that things spin faster and faster? So I hope that was useful. Best place to start, calendar, get your SOPs sorted, and then just slowly begin building it up. In a month's time, okay, the first couple of weeks, stuff slows down, right? But it's about going slow to go fast. In about 6 months' time, you're going to be amazed at the output that you're doing because you are seriously high leverage. Good luck, get after it.